Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be. Welcome to Zyxel's Tech Talk, and just covering over our partner program, partner solutions, and overview of Zyxel. So thank you for being here. I see you're here too, Kenton. Nice to see you on here on the channel, and also Bill and a few others there. Welcome this afternoon. Hope the weather is great where you are. It's great here in sunny California right now. I think it's going to be around 85 degrees. Um, but we wanted to be able to use this time for you to learn more about our solutions, about our partner program, and a lot of the different applications that you can utilize our products for. Is the sound okay? Just from a raise of hands, it sounds okay. I don't have to turn anything up. All right, Ken, thank you so much for that. So we have a lot of slides to cover. Again, my name is Trywin. I am the product manager and sales manager here in the North American headquarters. And I wanted you to let you know too that this is a interactive session as well. So if you have any questions, please use the Q&A section in the Zoom here, and I'll try to get to those questions as best as I can. Of course, this is going to be recorded as well. So if you have any partners or you have any team members who might benefit from this, please let us know. We'll send you the link after, or you'll find it in our webinar section. So just a quick introduction of who we are as at Zyxel Networks. We are Zyxel Networks. We have actually been in business now for this year is going to be our 35th year. So it's our anniversary year here. 100 million devices making connections worldwide. 700 employees are a part of Zyxel Networks in 150 different global markets. Over 1 million businesses use and work with Zyxel solutions today. We've actually are very proud of this. We've been recognized in the S&P Global Sustainability Yearbook. Only about 759 top performers are included in their yearbook out of around 9,400 companies worldwide. So it's considered across 62 different industries, and we are only one of 4 companies in the communications equipment industry that made the cut. So Zyxel, Cisco, Ericsson, and Winstrom Web. So we're really proud of that being recognized in there as a business and as a company and corporate solution there in the telecommunications side of things. We also work with industry partners and leaders in the industry to provide different solutions that we either utilize or benefit from or leverage to offer it to our partners. Companies like Wirestorm, Ekahau on the wireless side, McAfee, Norton, Webroot, Bitdefender, names that you recognize and what we utilize. And again, we use their expertise to deliver our award-winning brand and solutions, across the globe. So we here are a channel company in the U.S. and in North America and in Canada. We have our sales managers and account managers here who manage the different regions on the West, the Central, and the East in Canada. So you have David, Andy, and Jacob, and we are here to be your advocates. We are here to help you on the pre-sales, the post-sales, the anytime sales, solutions, kind of situations, or if you need an engineer on the line to help you on building out an application, figuring out what products to use. We're here to help you, and we work hand in hand with our distribution partners and their sales reps to engage and to make sure that you have the equipment that you need. We're here to help you work smarter, not harder. From our cloud solutions, from our web, from our products. I don't have a slide here, but pretty much anything that connects to an internet or a network, Zyxel probably has something that connects to that solution, whether it be end to end or at least a piece or component of that. And one thing I wanted to focus on, especially if you, I guess maybe a raise of hands, how many of you are looking at or have partners or looking at getting into kind of the MSP space, or maybe you are an MSP today where you're providing managed networks, not just a break fix one-time thing, but you actually are managing networks on a regular basis, and managing either remotely or through the cloud. So we want to kind of cover what these differences between a managed networking versus kind of a cloud, from a traditional side to a cloud side on a management system. Today, in order for you to engage or to build out an investment, you have to purchase equipment to build your own MSP. You have to install the equipment. You have to then have something that monitors the equipment. You have to have access to the equipment, so build some sort of infrastructure to the back end, maybe VPN, or MPLS, things like that, a monitoring platform. So leveraging some other third party that can give you information about what's happening. You have to store all that information, the data on a virtual platform for your logs, in the cloud or at a data center or on a server somewhere. Then you have to run updates. You manage the different updates for all the different products that it might be there within the system. And then managing the user device management side of it too. So authentication, managing the users themselves. Maybe you have a Radius server or managing even guest network access. So it requires a lot for you to build this from the ground up. And so if you don't have a system already in place, this is kind of the perfect solution for you. Nebula allows for you to really cut the costs there. You just have to purchase the equipment, your switches, your wireless, your security, and licenses, and you just maintain the maintenance contracts that might be needed for that. You install the equipment and you can get up and running within just a few minutes. And then you leave that all up to our system. We've already developed the monitoring in the cloud. So you can monitor the devices. You have access to the equipment without having to open up ports, don't have to open up VPN tunnels to get to that information and to configure. You have a monitoring platform that's integrated here as well to configure the switches. You don't have to worry about the data storage part, the subscriptions that are already there. Especially if you've gone to the pro level, you can have up to 365 days of historical data and logs on that network. Simplifying updates so you can mass update or you can schedule updates across different organizations and different customers, different sites. And then you can manage the users on your own. You can manage them within the cloud platform, but then you can add guest network access, captive portal information, all of that. And that's delivered within our Nebula platform. So say hello to hassle-free networking management in our Nebula platform. You can set up without unboxing the product. You basically just have to scan the QR code or use the MAC and serial number that's part of that device, either in the interface or on the box itself. And you can import that into a customer's, a customer's site and be able to manage that and be able to get that up and running really within minutes. Because once it's able to get on, you've scanned the devices from your mobile app into that customer's profile or customer's organization. Once it can go online, it downloads the configuration, downloads its configuration, and comes up and running. And from a management standpoint, you have access to this network visibility, troubleshooting, anytime, anywhere you have internet connectivity. So you can access this Nebula Control Center, which we call NCC, from anywhere. So you could be sitting on a beach, you could be sitting anywhere on the road and be able to troubleshoot and get alerts, alarms as necessary to manage these networks for all your customers. There's no additional hardware or software needed. It's all included within the box, within the devices themselves. So you don't need an additional cloud key. You don't need to install a server, a backdoor, a computer or anything like that within the network to get all of this information. All you need is a browser in order to get access to this information to those networks. So there's no additional cost there. And also there's an easy to manage, easy to secure the guest network side. We have a lot of businesses that say, hey, you are my managed service provider. You're providing me with the networking equipment. You provide us Wi-Fi for the business, but I want my clients, I want my visitors who come to also be able to utilize that network. So how do you do that? So we have captive porter with voucher systems that are there available. You can use user and device management, guest protection via guest isolation on that SSID can automatically be implemented and can kind of traverse the entire network that you have within there. And then connect and protect solutions. That allows for you to add additional, endpoint AP security to that network. So it depends on your application. You may want that level of security. Also say hello to remote workspaces. We've simplified that through our VPN, being able to create workplaces in the branch locations or the end user at home, site to site, hub to spoke, fully meshed VPN connections can be configured through this interface. So all of that, working together to make sure that the end users or the clients that are working remotely can have secure connectivity back to the main office. And so that's always supported. You just be careful when you're looking at some of the other competitors. Sometimes it only supports the site to site, or it's only the the office to the end user client devices, and some of them won't do the site to site type VPN. So we support that IPsec. We support the SSL functionalities for that as well. So different options, different ways to manage that. And then built-in user management. Within Nebula, you can manage all the different users, the clients, like you would have a radius, an external radius, without having to worry about having an external radius. Or if you want to integrate it more to a Microsoft, user interface for that, you can do that. You can do two-factor authentication with the cloud authentication methods there. Two-factor, you can do a WPA2 and 3 enterprise security on the Wi-Fi, user access capabilities, guest network access, team management. If you want to manage the admins within that have access within your cloud platform on the MSP level, that's all again controlled through the cloud portal. And it makes it a lot easier to do that. And it's also fast and efficient, especially when you're doing updates or configuration changes that need to go across maybe mass number of sites. You might have a customer that has multiple retail stores and they release some new policy that they want to block certain types of traffic. Then you can implement that policy across it without having to do it individually as you would on a traditional network level. You can automate and auto deploy. You can do cross synchronization from different customers. You can create templates to synchronize settings. And that's the beauty of part of the Nebula Cloud. You can create some best practice templates for these different types of customers and use those as your templates. So when you have a new customer come on board, you can then synchronize those settings or copy them basically over to this new customer. You scan in the devices. Now they take that identity. Any customizations that you need to make on that, obviously you can make, and your product or the product and networking, the network will then come online. You can clone switches. You can do backup, restore configurations. You can clone sites and configurations. So it allows for you to kind of really do an auto deployment or even a pre-configured out of the, while it's still in the box scenario. Just imagine you having the entire network already pre-configured. The box hasn't, the units haven't even been sent. You just have to scan them to make sure that that's part of that identity. Those get shipped off. And the person who does the install just needs to know and trained on what wires connect to the internet, which one goes to the switch, which one goes to the access points, powers them all on, and can wait for the technical people to see that it's gone online on Nebula and then download its config. And then he can just test, and they can just test the connectivity. And so it makes it a lot easier on the deploy. And we do have some partners who use Nebula even on a kind of a self-install kit, right? Back in the DSL days, how many of you received a self-install kit from your service provider and said, hey, here are the basic instructions. Plug this into your phone line, plug this into your device, and then, test it out, turn it on. And so we've all dealt with that. So this is kind of helps to streamline that as well. So we have partners that can do that self-install kit. We're also pushing standards of wireless connectivity as well, support for smart mesh, traffic shaping, security on the edge on the wireless side. WPA3 enterprise security, like I mentioned before, roaming is a standard for us and using those industry standards to help you with a roam and pre-authentication. And then advanced Wi-Fi features. And this is kind of the big part of why Nebula is so powerful. It allows for you to do what we call Wi-Fi aid, Wi-Fi health, and AI machine learning to help to facilitate better Wi-Fi connectivity, better signals, or moving clients to better bands so that, again, to mitigate interference on different bands. Scheduling SSIDs to turn on and off as needed, or maybe during in business hours and turning off during business hours, or a dynamic personal pre-shared keys to help facilitate kind of an isolated network within the existing SSID space. So a lot of different things that you can do, and then you can visualize the network. You can see what's connected to what. It can help to discover the devices that might be there on the different ports. You can use this to also find signal information, port status, device information, drill into that, get real-time PoE usage, and looking at what's stacked and connected to which can help also determine if there might be any loops, or maybe somebody's connected an Ethernet cable that they shouldn't have, or to a device that shouldn't be there. You can also use this as tools for diagnostics of cable testing on the Ethernet side or even on the fiber side. application visualization and reporting for threats and managing all that security level as well. So security is very important to me, dealing with security and in the product space on my side of things. So it's something that's always on my mind, and using security that is evolving on its own, being able to self-update, meets it helps to deal with all the threats that continue to come. So it's flexible. It has, we utilize different vendors there like Trellix, WebRoot, and LifeLock to provide some of the services that are part of our security platform. But again, it helps to then mitigate different threats, ransomware, and I'll go in some more details of that. Even content filtering and utilization there. And it connects the switches on the backend side that power up most of our networks. The firewall is connected to that onto the internet side. But then it's really the switches that provide the day-to-day transport of data between your wireless access points through the network as best as possible. Intelligent PoE in our PoE switches so that you can put as many devices as possible in that budget that's available without compromising the speed, without compromising the load that's available. And our switches are all full non-blocking, dual bidirectional, full bandwidth capable of moving those kinds of packets. It can auto detect, recover PoE devices in case some device is no longer transmitting, but there was a device there like a camera. We can automatically try to bring it back online by doing a PoE reboot, or you can schedule reboots, or in a troubleshooting environment or a situation, you might want to reboot their phone or reboot their access point or whatever device that might be on that side. You can drill into your Nebula platform and be able to control all that. So a lot of different things and functions as part of this, cloud networking system. It gives you that powerful, effortless, and scalable connectivity solution. And right now we have over 100 network devices, including security, switch, Wi-Fi, and LTE type products that are connected in this Nebula Cloud platform. So really a huge portfolio, and pretty much every product that we come up with now that has any kind of manageability is going into our Nebula Cloud. So we have hundreds of thousands of devices that are currently in our Nebula Cloud platform. We're really excited to see our partners and MSPs use that. So the licensing within our Nebula platform kind of comes in kind of three levels. We have a base pack, which then is a license free pack. So you can use a certain number of products within this free cloud. It only gives you 24 hours of logging. And if you need more than that, then you either go to the plus pack. So the plus pack is the middle. So there's kind of a middle cost there. But we want you to get to the Pro Pack because it gives you the enhanced diagnostic tools, the enhanced AI, the reporting, all of the features that are available within those higher products. And it gives you 365 days of log. So if you are on the free base pack now, there is a 30-day trial that you can utilize that will be activated. So you can kind of test drive the Pro Pack. Within the device interface, within the cloud interface on Nebula, if you ever log on to it, it's nebula.zyxel.com. You can kind of go into that. You can create an account and you can kind of test drive some of the stuff that's there. But you'll notice there are certain features when you don't have the Pro, it'll say, it has like a diamond or something on it that says, this is a Pro feature. And so it helps you if you want to decide to buy or upgrade that organization or that customer to become Pro for you as an MSP, then you can have that choice. And so the licensing is per device per year. We do have monthly packs as well, but it's usually used to kind of shore up any discrepancies between maybe different models that you've installed at different times. But some people will use that at points in time as well. And then we have something called the MSP pack. And the MSP pack allows for, if you have management for maybe more than, I would say, 10 customers that you want to manage under a single interface, or you might have several different types of admins that are managing the network, that's something that you might want to consider. And that's a yearly subscription that kind of covers your entire account. It gives you this higher level, higher visibility and manageability of admins across all of your organization. So it just helps with that and the reporting and things like that. So if that's something of your interest, there is a 90-day trial that you can activate within the Nebula platform. So you can kind of test drive that out as well. But if you have any further questions on the licensing, of course, again, you can reach out to any of us on the sales manager and account manager side to help you with that. So with the time that we have left, I want to cover our major product lines, starting with wireless. And so these are kind of the bread and butter of the products. I won't go too much detail on the model numbers, except for maybe highlighting a few of the mainstream ones or things that we think that is going to be a big focus for us this year. And but I would want to talk about the differentiators in the technology. So in our wireless side, our portfolio is very powerful. It gives you access to single click wireless mesh. So being able to configure maybe a wireless AP that might not be wired to the connection, still be able to offer that as a mesh type capable, be able for it to configure itself as a mesh device, using an existing mesh network that's there, using a Zyxel AP that is wired. So it gives you that extension if you do need to go someplace that doesn't have access or easy access to a wire. You can still offer coverage for wireless. And we offer enterprise class as a standard, WPA 2 and 3 enterprise security with fast roaming, with 802.1x authentication. You can use a Radius server, or you can use any other authenticator type third party, or using the Nebula Cloud as your authenticator for those standards. And then fast roaming with the 802.11r, K, and V standards to assist in the authentication if you're using like 802.1x to do authentication as you roam through, or maybe you have IoT devices that are moving that need this fast roaming. Usually that is not as critical unless you're doing, voice, a wireless voice application that you want to, as best as you can mitigate any kind of drop packets as you roam. But even today, even in a normal scenario, in a Wi-Fi phone, even without 802.1, those fast roamings turned on, you will still be able to roam and do it well and efficiently. One feature that does change the game a lot is a dynamic personal pre-shared key, and this allows for you to create virtual networks in a sense based on the pre-share key that they use. The benefit of this is now we can get rid of 20 different SSIDs. We can have a single SSID, and based on that pre-share key that device uses, they get put into that bucket or the same bucket as anybody else who has that same pre-shared key. So just think about, no longer do I need to create let's say a multi-tenant building. I don't have to create business one SSID, business two SSID. I can just say Zyxel building SSID, and based on their pre-shared key for the Office One, all the devices that use that will now be on their own network, their own private VLAN, their own SSID per se, within that network. So it offers a more powerful kind of application there, really in maybe a hotel. You can see it even better in a hotel environment or in a resort environment where people bring their own devices and they want to have it connected to it and be able to see each other within that network on that private side without having to deal with jumping from AP and AP or a separate AP for every room type scenario. So again, it makes it less confusing for the end user to know what to connect to. And then wireless machine learning, the AI, this is part of the advanced functions in our Pro. It allows to move clients, adjust channel widths to help to improve the quality of the clients based on maybe the load. Maybe during certain times where there's less devices that are on there, it can use the full kind of channel width because there's less interference. But then as more and more devices come on, the AI may change the APs to have shorter widths so that it can kind of manage the noise on more devices as it's coming through there. So that, what we've seen in a lot of cases where number one issue with Wi-Fi is interference. Too many other access points on the wrong channel or on channels that are conflicting with each other. So this will help to mitigate that. And there's also another technology that will help mitigate that too, and I will cover that on the wireless side. But we pride ourselves in our RF design. You can look at our products. When you pick up one of our products, you know that it's not just something we've taken off the shelf and just slapped a Zyxel label on it, but we've actually worked and engineered on the hardware and the software to fine tune it as best as we can to deliver the best coverage, improve the connection speed and usability for our Wi-Fi. So one thing I wanted to talk about about Wi-Fi. What's the number one reason people say Wi-Fi? My Wi-Fi is bad. I can't get connection. It's usually due to co-channel interference. Either there's too much noise, there's too many devices, or there's channels that are conflicting, or there's too many APs that are all screaming at each other, and all the packets are colliding, kind of like on a freeway or a motorway, where the cars are the packets and they're getting collided, and so they're going to have to retransmit, recommunicate. So we have a couple of types of antennas. We have a standard antenna, which is just, it just has its range, it has its its pattern there. But we have something that's called dual optimized antennas. And you'll see on the model names of these products will be designated with like a D at the end, standing for dual optimized. And what it does is it allows for you to manage when you ceiling mount a product or you wall mount a product, and how the Wi-Fi antennas behave. So in this particular case, if you took a standard one and you put it up against a wall, you're going to get a lot of interference. That because it's typically made for ceiling, so it has that oblong shape. But now when you've turned it on to that to that vertical plane, it's now going to be blasting floor to floor, right into the ground, right? So, and at the same time, if you have multiple floors, it's going to cause interference between them. With dual optimized antennas, you can virtually flip a switch within the interface and says, hey, I'm going to wall mount this. So it's going to change the pattern to focus out more like a football along the, or maybe in some cases, a rugby ball. I don't, whatever it is, right? It's that oval shape that goes now along the floor, mitigating interference between the floors, but now giving you more of a focused, along the horizon of that floor. And so it helps with that. So that's the dual optimized part. Co-channel interference, how do you deal with it? Usually is when there is interference between access points. The only way really is to kind of turn down the noise. So you turn down, but if you turn it down on the power side, it's going to cause gaps within your coverage, right? You need to have that kind of bleed over. So there is a balance to that. So we don't want to deal with, that kind of part of that issue for that co-channel interference. So what we've introduced is we have a patented technology called smart antenna. And the goal of it is to increase capacity, increase coverage while reducing interference and providing it within our solutions on all of the products, whether it be 2.4, 5 gigahertz, or 6 gigahertz types of products. So how does smart antenna work? So let's look at a static antenna where it may have interference from other devices. And so devices are losing packets. So it's causing that noise, causing kind of poor connectivity. But with smart antenna, with their interference, we actually go through a patented process of scanning and selecting from different algorithms of 700 different optimized antenna patterns within 100 milliseconds to figure out what is the optimal beam to the client. And so it will shape itself, it will focus its transmit, it will focus its receive in a sense, um, within the antenna array, and be able to kind of create that shape so that it can hear better, it can speak better to the device. And the beauty of it is it does not require anything from the client device. So whether it's a computer that does not have any kind of smart antenna, any kind of beam forming type of technology, it doesn't matter. We are doing all of the work. So this works well with IoT devices. It works with just kind of any kind of wireless device that's existing within that network without having the technology. So that's the main, I would say, the main key differentiator within our smart antenna solution. And that's part of our flagship model, of course. That's in our flagship line. You'll see it in the Ultimate series, on this upper tier here on the Ultimate side. But you may still have budget customers. You want to compete on the lower end, people who just want basic connectivity. You don't have to worry or don't want to worry about floor or ceiling mounted or wall mounted, etc. Or you can go to the more of the SMB side. Moving up in the space gives you some more flexibility. And we do have, brochures and kind of help charts and cheat sheets that help you decide, kind of where do you want to position, where you want to standardize on which models for your customers. Like primarily on this lower end, you'll see these more kind of on that. I just need one AP for my small office or my room or something like that. But when you actually are doing kind of managed services and business side or for projects and different verticals, you're going to be more in this Ultimate series side of things for those higher end projects. And that's where, most of the smart antenna type technologies will exist in that space. And so Wi-Fi 7 is what's on the horizon, or it's actually here, but you may be seeing it come to you on the horizon on your customers and what to upgrade. What it offers is that it's going to be gives you speeds of up to 46 gigabits technology. It's going to double the bandwidth capable within each kind of the channel ranges there. And something that I love, and I think it's going to be the biggest game changer, is the lower latency because of the MLO, the multi-link operation function that Wi-Fi 7 gives. And the Wi-Fi Alliance predicts that 233 million Wi-Fi 7 devices will enter the market in 2024 and grow to 2.1 billion. That's with a B devices by 2028. So we can see within the next 4 years, people are going to want to upgrade because their devices at home, their devices that they're taking with them, the mobile devices that they're using, their phones are all going to be able to support it. And it may not be the bandwidth that matters because most people's internet connection can't go to 46 gigs or whatever it may be at that time. The biggest function I think is going to be that multi-link operator, and I'll tell you why. So this is kind of a generic roadmap of kind of the devices that are already supporting some of the 6E, the 6 gigahertz range. So that's what it opens up. Wi-Fi 7 opens up that 6 gigahertz range. So you already know 2.4, you already know 5 gigahertz, and now that's that 6 gigahertz range is what 6E and Wi-Fi 7 open up to the space. And that segment of channels in the 6 gigahertz range is it has more channels than the 2.4 and 5 gigahertz combined. So again, it offers as more devices can go to the 6 gigahertz. It will leave for your legacy devices on 2.4 and 5 gigahertz a much cleaner channel or much cleaner operation. So it'll be less interference in that space. And that's the hope, is to spread people out as best as possible as these devices are coming. But this is my game changer. Once multi-link operation becomes part of more standard on the devices themselves, because it requires the device to have this function. Your normal single link operations today with like Wi-Fi 6, you have to communicate on either 2.4 or 5 gigahertz, right? The client either decides, or the AP could help to push them to go to one or the other, to kind of make sure people can connect to those as much as we can. But with multi-link operation, it's going to be, for this device, it's a triple radio, so it operates all on the three bandwidths there, the 2.4, the 5, and the 6. And the devices can then choose. Oh, whoops, let me go back. The devices can then choose to connect with multiple links in parallel, so they can communicate. Sometimes, the thought is that some devices, maybe the lower cost devices, will just operate on 2.4 and 6, or maybe 5 gigahertz and 6 gigahertz. But some devices, maybe the premium ones, can officially talk on all three, 2.4, 5 gigahertz, and 6 gigahertz, all at the same time, and potentially also from different links, different channels, different bands, and kind of bring them all together so it has better communication, better coverage, better overall throughput on that, to avoid kind of the interference as necessary. So it could dynamically do that within that communication space. So that's going to be that biggest kind of benefit. This is going to give you better coverage. Maybe the most common question I get for Wi-Fi, and especially new technology, they always ask, will this give me better coverage or better Wi-Fi? And I would say the footprint to which you are going to kind of have uh, your Wi-Fi coverage is going to be about the same. The benefit that you're going to get with like multi-link is that it's going to improve the quality of that range. So in that communication within that range. But that smart antenna technology, the being able to beam change and to be able to transmit and receive better to mitigate the interference, now that will give you a little bit better coverage, right? So that's going to be the game changer for that, for coverage, for to expand the coverage. But within that same coverage, multi-link will give you better quality, better latency, and mitigate that latency. So our flagship product that has launched this year is our WBE 660S. So any products that have the S at the end means that it has smart antenna, right? So the D is dual optimized antenna. The S is smart antenna technology. So this is our triple radio, 22 gigabit, 2200 uh, 22,000 wireless Wi-Fi 7 access point. So all three radios running, all Nebula capable, powered, enterprise security, advanced cellular and RF filtering to prevent, kind of interference there. It's part and included with the Nebula Flex Pro. So it already includes the Nebula Flex Pro licensing for the cloud for 1 year built into it, and that smart antenna technology. It has, again, our design is to make sure that things are filtered, things are mitigated from the interference. So we have a lot of shielding, noise shielding, heat spreading, all of that to make it as efficient and as best as possible. So this can be used in high density locations like schools, um, office buildings, hotels, anything that you might have high density or maybe high interference type connectivity. You can also use it in larger warehouse kind of applications for IoT, things that have a large carbon footprint or maybe, large footprint that you need kind of extended reach within that building. But I still go through with my rule of thumb is no more than 2 walls. The reason why is you may get great signal from my device, but if your device is a low powered handheld device, it's not going to be able to traverse that as well. Even with our smart antenna technology, we can help to improve that, but there is limitations because it's still the wavelength can't pass through 3 walls, or has a very poor time doing that. So you don't want to compromise your connectivity, especially if you can deploy an access point near on the other side somewhere. So you could still get better coverage, better usability within that, or maybe for future high bandwidth applications like VR or AR or broadcasting, where you're just doing, effectively live streams, but through the wireless connection. I'm currently, my laptop right now is connected to one of these WBE 660s and on the 6 gigahertz range. So it's been a great, from an interference level, it's been great for me. So that's the Wi-Fi side. The important side that kind of runs the internal of the network is the wired side. And this is kind of the less, I guess the less pretty of the applications, but it provides a foundation of functionality, making sure that things are powered, that the data that comes from these access points are traversing within the network properly and securely without having to be compromised, or maybe from people plugging in different things, or maybe someone who is eating up maybe the connections, or somebody's causing a broadcast storm that's taking down the network, things like that. And so this gives you that visibility. We're working on the switching side, that it's not only faster, but also smarter in how it deals with the network. It can provide up to 10 times more throughput and 2 times more PoE right now. So it depends on your Cat cabling. So if you already have Cat 5e, you can go up to 5 gigabits at that full length of 100 meters, and you can still deliver the 60-watt PoE plus plus. Cat 6 cabling can then take you to a 10 gig level, but up to 55 meters on the cable. But then if you deploy or plan to deploy, you want to deploy the Cat 6A cabling that can then take you to the full 300 feet or 100 meters length at the full 10 gig. So just keep that in mind. And also PoE now has jumped in power. A while ago, it was 15.4 watts. If you deal with IP cameras and phones, that's all you really kind of need on that side. But more and more devices, pan, tilt, zoom, higher end Wi-Fi connections, etc., or even our Wi-Fi 6, Wi-Fi 7 AP that I mentioned, the 660S there, will require for you to use the PoE, the Ultra PoE with the 60-watt standard there. So keep in mind that the switch network then may need to be upgraded in order to maximize that throughput capability or that new technology. So understanding some of the names of the switching, how we call it. If it starts with an ES, that's a 100 meg switch. If it's an RG type switch, then it's more of a ruggedized outdoor type, or a DIN rail type switch. GS is just a gigabit switch. MG is more of our kind of a consumer line. It usually gives you multi-gig, but it doesn't have any uplink ports. So it just has maybe just the copper that's there. The XGS line is our gigabit port speed with 10 gig uplinks. So the X just stands for 10. the Roman numeral for 10. So that's where the 10 gig is. So it has either 10 gig copper or 10 gig fiber. The XMG is our multi-gig. So it has 2.5, gigabit, 2.5 gig, and 5 gig ports, and has usually uplinks that are copper gig, 10 gig, or SFP plus 10 gig. And then if a switch just says XS, that's just a 10 gig switch. So it has multi-gig there, but it's primarily all the ports can be 10 gigabit like copper, and then might have some additional 10 gigabit uplinks and SFP plus uplinks. And if the product ends in an HP, it's usually like a PoE type standard power. If it's an EP, it's kind of an like economy power budget. So it's like half the power that's there. Maybe for the smaller applications there, you want to have a lower cost. That's the model you might choose. Or if you're looking for kind of really full power type applications, then we have large budgets that can go up to 960 watts with the FP type models. So you'll just see that in our product lines, in our price lists, etc. For the fiber side, SFP is gigabit and SFP plus is 10 gigabit. And we have transceivers for that. We don't sell the fiber, but we will sell the transceivers. We'll send direct attached cables, the modulars for different links, different multi-mode or single mode fiber. And then the direct attached cables is something that you might use in order to uplink switches between, within a rack or within 1 or 3 meters distance of each other. So that's good for the uplinking part. And those are actually a great value because then you don't have to terminate any fiber. It's just like connecting two Ethernet cables, but it has transceivers on the end and just connecting them in. And our switch is there to make sure that you can do VLAN, you can do voice-based VLAN, you can do that intelligent PoE that I mentioned before, recovery of connected PoE devices, or automatically detect that and alert you or do a reboot on the port. We have CCTV functionalities, IPTV reporting, machine learning to identify network issues that might be causing from broadcasting storm, blocking, something like that. And it can help to auto correct and fix those scenarios for you so that your network is not compromised in that way. You can use the switches to also visualize your network, automatic topology, which is part of that pro function within our Nebula licensing. Virtual stacking. So, it's literally, you can say all of these switches within this site have this profile. And so then that way it's easier to manage. It's like you're just managing a group of switches all at the same time. You can have real-time port and PoE utilization. You can drill into those ports to see the devices and the clients that are connected to that and the information that's there for network usage and things like that. You can do diagnostic tools on the cable and fiber, like I mentioned before. And then it helps you on the security side to make sure your network is reliable, it's resilient, and making sure that it's always available. So you can do cloud backup, restoring of the configurations, you can do port and user security with like 802.1x authentication or some ACL or user-based ACLs to lock down those ports, because you may have ports that are open. People may, put a router in there or put some device that you don't want them to have connected to your network, and you can use that to block, the connections that's there. Auto protection like loop guard, DHCP guard to prevent people from putting their own routers and DHCPing to your network. Network resilience like link aggregation, RSTP, and switch routing functions as well manageable within this device. So you still have to buy a product that has some of these advanced features that I mentioned, like it's part of its identity, it's part of its, chipset function. Then you can do that, because you can't take something that is not a layer 3 switch, and just because Nebula says it has or can do Nebula 3 management, it's not going to automatically have layer 3 functions, right? You have to have a layer 3 switch that you're managing within Nebula that then you can manage and use that layer 3. Automatic deploy, again, that's kind of the benefit. You want to deploy 10 switches all at once, you can just restore them, or you can scan them in, put them part of that customer, and again, have it downloaded and the profiles and configurations be moved towards it, to it. We have some partners who do it on site, where they just will send it to the customer site, and that's where it gets all downloaded and configured per se from the cloud. But there are others who will have a kind of a setup station within their office where they kind of pre-stage the install, so that they make sure that there's no DOAs, if anything, or make sure that all the configurations and things are all tested. They'll box it back up, then send it off, or maybe they'll label it after and then send it off for installation, right? There's, again, depending on what kind of business model that you're building there, really at that hassle-free type application. So we do break it up. It's similar to our Wi-Fi, the simplicity, flexibility, ultimate, and kind of a project-based type products. So if you're looking for kind of cost effectiveness and with still cloud functionality, that 1915 series is going to be your best option there. And then if you want the mainstream, most of our customers are selling within this space, the 1350s, the 1920s, and the 1930s. And then you have your specialized MSPs that are working in the, competing against the higher end type switches with layer 2, layer 3 functionalities, or bigger projects, applications that need maybe AV over IP type scenarios. The ultimate series is what then you would go with. Or then if you're doing more like of an ISP services or projects in schools, in hotels, this series here might be more of the better fit for that. But again, we're here to help you. So any of our team members, our account managers there will be able to help you, bring in a systems engineer if necessary, to help you decide for what product, for what budget would best fit your scenario. So some of the highlights: our new XMG 1915 series is coming on board. We already have the 10E model, which is a non-PoE version, but this month, I think at the end of this month, we'll be receiving our shipment of the 10EP and the 18EP. So these are multi-gig, 2.5 gig copper ports with 10 gig SFP plus uplinks with PoE. So the budgets are lower because it's in the 1915 kind of that simplicity side. It gives you Nebula Cloud that you can flex into it. So you can either manage it in a web GUI, or you can use our free Nebula Cloud base pack offering, or you can upgrade it to the advanced Pro package as an after upgrade. So you can deploy these easily and within minutes. And this is our specialty switch, our 1350s. These are our camera capable or camera type switches. It has certain features like extended range, continuous PoE powering, auto camera recovery functionalities made for that CCTV. Also extended surge protection on the Ethernet ports and on the power supply to help that. The extended range is probably one of the, I would say, main key selling points, because it can give you, rather than a 100-meter typical Ethernet, you can now go to an extended range of 250 meters, so 2.5 times the distance of your normal PoE, provide you still power and data for those extended cameras without having to put a little extender switch inside or in between. And then our XGS 1930 series, that's our 10 gig capable, flexible product there. All gigabit ports with 10 gig uplinks. Again, that's Nebula Flexed. And then our multi-gig, actually, this is our 10 gig XS 1930 series. So it gives you the 2.55 and 10 gigabit copper ports with high power PoE. So it can give you PoE++, so the BT standard, give you 60 watts of power per port with a budget on an 8-port switch, like 8-port CPoE, 375 watts. So it's quite a lot of wattage for that kind of small footprint. So it's to power up those higher end, power up our Wi-Fi 7 access points, use that needs that, over that 60 watts. So really our access points will use the 660S will use around 33 watts of power. So there's plenty of budget for you to fully load this with 8 of those switches. I'm sorry, 8 of those APs in this one single switch. There's also a layer 3 software upgrade option for these models as well. And this comes as a standard, as a fiber. So all 10 gig fiber, if you want to use this as like a fiber concentrator, or maybe a top of the rack type switch. You can add then layer 3 functionalities to it. You can use it as just a copper with not PoE, so 10 gig copper, or a 10 gig copper with PoE plus some additional 10 gig uplinks. So that's a big seller for us. And the XMG 1930 is also a new switch that we launched recently this year as well. So this is primarily 2.5 gig ports, and then with a few 10 gig capable ports and then 10 gig uplinks. But this can boast PoE power of up to 700 watts of PoE on a 24-port switch. So something to think about This one does have a kind of a mix match. So there's 8 ports that will give you the 60 watt, and then the rest of the 20 ports will give you 30 watt power, or maximum 30 watt. And this is also layer 3 capable. And then our XGS, this is kind of our project type switch. It's a 10 gig uplink switch with gigabit port still, but it does boast higher PoE power. So on the FP model, we'll do 960 watts. The standard 54 HP, 54, so 48 port PoE is 600 watts. And our 28 port or 24 port PoE is 400 watt capable. And again, these higher end models come with Nebula Pro included, so you don't have to buy it for the first year. You just have to renew it when the time comes. And then we have another top of the rack type switch, again focused on multi-gig or 10 gig. This is our XS3800. So it's kind of a combination of both 10 gig SFP plus and 10 gig copper, depending on what you want to use. And you can add that, layer 3 routing functionalities as you need. So this is to connect. These switches will connect businesses, applications for IP phones, Wi-Fi, maybe access control, even lighting panels, things like that, or a bigger office, being able to make sure you have security protection enabled with multi-gig or 10 gig connectivity, or maybe even a hospital that has a lot of data that's moving between the networks. So that's just a couple of the examples. And then the last product, set that's dear to my heart as well is the security side. So we provide through Nebula powerful cybersecurity protection. So we are doing all the work, so you don't have to worry about it. And we're trying to cover all the angles that's available on the network space. We are powered by some of the best in class security experts that you see here to provide different services within this solution box of antivirus, sandboxing, web filtering, malware protection, ransomware protection, IP reputation, application control, email security, all of those kinds of things, intrusion detection. Those are all different layers of threats that you have to work against or work and protect against within the network, or to be able to control. We do offer a 30-day free trial on the content filtering services. That's great at blocking websites or inappropriate places that you don't want employees to go. There's a 30-day trial on the secure Wi-Fi side as well that helps you to connect APs or deploy APs at a remote location, and the APs can build a layer 2 tunnel back to the main office. Connect and protect on the AP side as well to give you endpoint protection, security, DNS reputation, IP reputation blocking at the access point side of it as well. So kind of giving you security throughout the entire network, not just at the gateway. And then gold security licenses. It's also a 30-day trial that you can enact if you didn't buy the bundled version. That gives you full sandboxing, full IP reputation, all of those services that you saw on that previous page available for 1 year or 2 years, depending on which one you choose. Connect, protect at the edge. Some applications require this today. Even if you maybe see some more cybersecurity insurance requirements to do endpoint or as close to the endpoint security as you can. The more protection you have, the better in their eyes as well. So being able to see that, be able to see different applications and throttle that, do threat protection based on IP and DNS information, and be able to do that on the access point side of things, as well as be able to provide powerful cybersecurity within our AI cloud. It's constantly getting information, getting new updates. Any new 0-day threats are getting uploaded to that sandbox so that it can figure out, is it malicious, and then create a signature or information that is then shared across the entire network of devices that use that cloud service. That secure Wi-Fi and being able to drop an AP in a remote location is great. It can create a seamless access for users and devices without having to worry about installing a VPN client or knowing how to use that, or an SSL client to get back to the network. This creates a network in an existing environment, utilizing the security standards that you have require, or as if they were sitting in the office itself. So it's a great kind of extending tool there. And then that network intelligence, especially for MSPs, is going to provide you information reporting, threat analysis, information of abnormal behavior and utilization, create customized reports that you can send with your customer bill to provide them, hey, this is what you've paid for protection on the network. This is what we've been protecting against. And so that can really kind of give you a great way to showcase, what you are doing and to kind of legitimize like what your services are providing today. And that works seamlessly within Nebula, and it's called Secu Reporter. And so we're doing the security without you having to worry about it. It constantly evolves. It constantly runs these updates, updates each other, updates signatures to make sure. And we work with those vendors to providing us the latest and greatest information as possible to deal with the threats as best as possible. And we depend on their expertise. So we're not doing it ourselves. And so we leverage them, what they do best in that market. And then that collaborative detection and response is another kind of function that we can use this information and detect if a device is maybe malicious within the network and be able to isolate them through the network. So we can block them from accessing the access point and things like that based on the security policies that you have set. Centralized provisioning, synchronization of security policies across the different sites within that organization, and be able to manage the VPN, manage the policies, who has access to which, and what traffic is allowed through that as well. And so that helps to simplify that remote workspace, being able to offer that secure Wi-Fi, be able to use two-factor authentication with like a Google authenticator for your IPsec VPN, or other types of ways that you're using to get into the network. We can use two-factor there, being able to use auto configuration and scripts to help you with that VPN configuration as well. And as same as kind of all of our other models, we follow that effortless, simplicity, flexibility, and ultimate side. The effortless is more like if you have a small office, we have devices that are on that, streamlined for it, just all in one type, no license required for security. Then you get to our simplicity models, which you haven't seen yet, but we have some USG Flex H series models coming. And most of our customers operate and sell in, again, that flexibility, USG Flex, where it can provide full level of security or just the hardware only functionality. And then our Ultimate series or H series gives you our high bandwidth, high performance functionality for dealing with security when you have people with gig or multi-gig internet connections and don't want to spend tens of thousands of dollars in order to have the full security at those full speeds. So on that effortless, just a couple minutes left in our webinar, but I wanted to highlight some of this. This is our kind of our standalone um, router with built-in ransomware protection, is Wi-Fi 6E built in as well. It's all Nebula powered as well, so you can use this and configure it within Nebula. It comes with an upgrade pack that you can add some additional functionality and security, like content filtering onto it as well. But this is great for maybe a small retail, a small office, a home office type scenario. And these are great for you to deploy. We also have a USG Lite 60AX that's coming out this summer. So you'll hear more about this, but it's going to be a dual multi-gig 2.5 connection for the WAN side. It's going to have Wi-Fi 6 with mesh capabilities, with other access points that have mesh, or our access points that have mesh. Auto VPN functionality, again, the built-in ransomware protection and upgradable security features. And then the flexibility side, that's our USG Flex. It has our full UTM capable sandbox URL threat management. This is the most flexible, I would say, of the models, right? That's why it's called a Flex, and has a greater performance on having all the full UTM features turned on. And then now our new flagship models are USG Flex H series. Those are our ultra performance that can give you multi-gig and 10 gig connections with PoE integrated as well. So these are going to be, if you're looking for that higher end model to fulfill that higher speeds with security and be able to still manage it within on the cloud side, you can use the H series. And just so you know too, the full Nebula cloud control, where the interface is reflected directly on the Nebula side, it will be available in October this year. And until then, your link within Nebula, it will drill in an SSH tunnel to the device interface, which will basically be mirrored in October to the cloud. So it will look and feel the same as you kind of edit or manage it now today, the way that it's being managed once it's moved into the cloud. So it just gives you kind of a high level or a little summary of it, but you can see the throughputs on this will go from a 2 gigabit SPI firewall up to a 15 gig firewall. A UTM is probably the more important number. It's a 600 megabits all the way up to a 4 gigabit firewall on the full UTM, the highest threat you can do. So that's great for teleworkers, right? Home offices that just need VPN, connecting security, making sure that's available, load balancing, failover type functions as well on that security, or you're trying to make VPN connections or remote connections between offices, then these are kind of the models that you could use to do that. So doing site to site, load balancing, etc. So then if you haven't joined our partner program, we have our bronze, silver, and gold. In the US dollars, it's 6K and 12K to be silver and gold. There's no cost to you. You just have to maintain certain levels in order to achieve those maximum discounts. So if you'd like to connect with us, we're on LinkedIn at Zyxel-US-channel and on YouTube at Zyxel America channel. And if you want to connect with me, you can search on LinkedIn or just Zyxel Try. That's TRI. So we're here to work smarter, not harder with Zyxel Network. So we don't have time for questions. If you do have any questions, you can send me an email. My email is right here on this thank you page. TRI at Zyxel.com. So I know we had a lot to cover, a lot to speak about, but hopefully some of this information was helpful to you. Again, reach out to us if you have any questions. Send me some information if you need, or us to send you information, or reach out to any of your sales reps to get that information as well. Until next time, I thank you for your time this afternoon, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. We'll see you again at another event or a Zyxel webinar today. We'll see some of you in Canada probably tomorrow. So thank you again. Have a great rest of your day.